Hey everybody, what's going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. So we're coming back to Mathmech, and I've really been eager to come back to Mathmech. So I'm at a level with Sprite in particular. I was gonna say decks I've been playing lately, but let's be real, that's Sprite. I've gotten to a point where I feel comfortable enough with that like, okay, I can pretty easily jump back into Sprite and still feel like I'm at the same comfort level with it, kind of even if I take a break from it, right? So I'm going to take a break from it and be practicing a few other decks to see if there are any other meta contenders that I'm interested in using possibly in like tournaments or kind of like rotating into my wheel of main decks, so to speak. One of those is definitely Mathmech. I've loved Mathmech historically as a deck, and I'm really eager to just keep playing this new iteration more and more. This new iteration being the one with the Firewall, Dragon, Darkfluid, Neo, Tempest, Terahertz. The inclusion of this card in Master Duel has absolutely revolutionized how Mathmech is played. And I do think that a version that focuses more on this is better than like a Link Disciple, Link Devotee build like I have played in the past. So we are still using a few familiar cards from that style of build, though. Mainly, I have my Small World Bridge of Valor, Gatchiri Addition, and Nibiru the Primal Being. Because we play these three cards, we can use Small World to bridge any monster into literally any other monster in this deck. It's a perfect bridge, and the nice thing about it, too, is not only is it a perfect bridge, but it's one with cards that you actually want to play. I see some people talk about playing Small World in other decks, and they're like, all you have to do is it's like here, let me actually find the card. It's like people who talked about playing a Small World engine in Gatchiri, and they're like, guys, you could play Link Belt Wall Dragon. It's the perfect bridge, and it's like it's not really a perfect bridge in a deck like Gatchiri because this card doesn't do anything in a deck like Gatchiri. To me, you want your Small World bridges to not only have a function in Small World, but also outside of that within the deck as well. And of course, Valor and Nib are two very good cards. And so is Gatchiri Addition, actually. I only play one, but I actually want to play a second copy of this card because I would love to open this card a lot more often than I currently do. Gatchiri Addition, for those who don't know, is a Cyberse extender that can special itself from hand by targeting a Cyberse effects monster you control and negating its effects. That's usually not a big deal. We can, just use a monster's effects we've already used, right? But the cool thing is, if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target one face-up monster you control, and it's unaffected by your opponent's card effects until the end of your opponent's turn, and that is key here. So, obviously this card is really good going second note decaying, for example, with like Accesscode Talker, right? Because then you can punch through with your access code and you know it's unaffected. But since we're making the Terahertz on turn 1, not all the time, but if we have the extenders we can in this deck, then we can actually use the Gatchiri Addition to very much help with that because it'll be unaffected through the end of the opponent's turn. So if you make a Terahertz on turn 1 using the Gatchiri Addition, then you have a monster that it's going to be at like 8k because it will use the effect on your turn and then again on your opponent's turn. So you'll have a 5500 if not 8k attack monster that's unaffected, and if your opponent doesn't have a kaiju or a lava golem, there's just no way they can out that. So yeah, again, the Gatchiri Addition is far more than just a Small World bridge. I think it's actually good enough that I want to test out a second copy in the future. I'll probably drop one of the two subtractions here, because this also fills the role of extender. Oh, another card I'm trying out in this build is the Triple Tactics Thrust. So, I've seen a couple of comments here and there asking, like, hey, you're not playing Thrust in, like, any of your decks lately. What's up with that? So, for Thrust, right, I want to be playing it in decks where it has a lot of good utility. And I want to be able to get something other than just, like, Triple Tack or Imperm. While those two cards are very good, if they're my only two Thrust targets, like, in the whole deck, I'd probably rather just max out on Triple Tack and Imperm. But here we do have a couple of powerful cards to get with the Thrust. Particularly, I like having a good turn 1 target for Thrust. I think if you're playing Triple Tactics Thrust and you're only playing normal spells and not playing like any normal trap cards at all, or if like Imperm is your only normal trap card, I kind of question how worth it is to play Thrust, because then it's more of a going second card and it doesn't have any actual turn 1 utility. But here we can set the Superfactorial, which is searchable of course by Circular, but if you get disrupted, then you still can potentially use the thrust to set up the Superfact and then potentially be able to still go for a Laplacian on the follow-up turn. Even beyond that, even if we're not negated, we can potentially use the Circular for an equation to get another extender, which will make it a lot more likely to end on the Terahertz plus Heatsoul end board, which if you can manage that on turn 1 is a very, very powerful end board. And we'll see a couple of games coming up here in the profile where we managed to pull that off there. Extra deck is mostly the same. For those who are wondering about like Wind Pegasus at Ignister and a Mereologic Aggregator, these are the 2 cards we're looking to send off the Terahertz. Turn 1, I like to dump off the Wind Pegasus because then it can sit in the graveyard and shuffle back an opponent's card if they happen to destroy one of our cards during their turn. And a Mereologic Aggregator I use during the opponent's turn because obviously when it gets sent to the graveyard is when it negates the effect of a card on the field. So you want to make sure you're doing it at the right timing there. I am also now playing Link Spider, which I think before I was playing Cyberus Wicked, but I've never summoned Wicked in this build, so I just took it out. And the Link Spider is a good out to Nibiru, particularly if you're still holding on to Parallel Exceed. You can link away the token for Link Spider, special Parallel Exceed, and that's more than enough to get your play started right there. Excuse me, sorry about that. So, yeah, that'll go ahead and cover the list. That's everything I wanted to talk about. I'm going to break it down card by card, and then we'll see some gameplay. So, for this build, we're on 1 Effect Veiler, 3 Maxx, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 2 Mathmech Sigma, 1 Mathmech Addition, 2 Mathmech Subtraction, 1 Mathmech Multiplication, 2 Mathmech Diameter, 3 Mathmech Circular, 3 Parallel Exceed, 1 Gatchiri at Ignister, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 3 Cynet Mining, 1 Mathmech Equation, 2 Triple Tactics Talent, 3 Small World, 2 Triple Tactics Thrust, 2 Call by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, 2 Infinite Impermanence, and then 1 Mathmech Superfactorial. That'll do it for our main deck. For the extra deck, we're on 1 Wind Pegasus at Ignister, 1 Primathmech Laplacian, 2 Primathmech Alembertain, 1 Mereologic Aggregator, 1 Link Spider, 1 Salamangreat Almiraj, 1 Linguriboh, 1 Update Jammer, 1 Splash Mage, 1 G Golem Crystal Heart, 1 Transcode Talker, 1 Decode Talker Heatsoul, 1 Accesscode Talker, and then finally 1 Firewall Dragon Darkfluid Neo Tempest Terahertz. Alright, that'll do it for the list. Let's see some gameplay now. Alright, being that these are Duelist Cup games, I'm not actually able to check my opponent's deck beforehand, so I don't remember off the top of my head what exactly each of these games I'm going to be playing against. But we are taking the second turn here, opening a phenomenal going second hand. We have the Maxx and the Ash Blossom, along with the Thrust for some potential follow-up, and we have the Circular for plays as well. Okay, so Trap Tricks is going to be our first opponent here. They're going to start by normal summoning the Pudica and activating the Trap Ship Garden. Looks like they're then going to link off the Pudica for Sarah. Very glad I have the Ash Blossoms here, and I am going to be holding the Ash Blossoms for the Sarah special summon. So, not using it in response to the Murmillo there. They can search the Hoyetta, that's fine. Can't use it in response to Gravediggers, but that's fine. Hoyetta is going to summon itself, and then, yep, here comes the Sarah effect, and now I'll throw out an Ash Blossom. Don't try to use Imperm against Sarah, because this card is not affected by trap cards as long as it's been Link summoned, so. And that'll be the end of my opponent's turn. I'm a little surprised they didn't go to the Rafflesia, but that's totally fine with me. Top decking another Circular. I'm going to start with Small World and get rid of this extra Circular for a Diameter. Now, I knew here that my Circular was probably just going to get negated by the Gravedigger's Trap Hole. But that's fine, because the card will... it'll stay in my hand, it won't go to the graveyard, but we still set up the Sigma in the yard, that was it. And we get to Ash Blossom, the other Sarah, attempts to special summon here. So now we don't have to worry about any more disruption from the opponent. They might have something in hand, but, you know. You'll notice I haven't used the Thrust yet. I just want to wait and see, like, if I end up needing to get something specific before I just, like, grab, I don't know, Talent and Draw 2 or something like that, you know? Alright, opponent does have a Nibiru, but thankfully we used a Diameter to make this Alembertain, so no need to worry about that. We'll just go ahead and negate it. And now we definitely don't have to worry about any more disruption here. Alright, you still need to find an OTK line, though. Gonna use the Splash Mage to bring back the Subtraction, and then I'm just gonna use the Thrust here to find an equation, and I'm basically gonna use that to help me OTK. Because I haven't actually used the Circular's effect because it didn't resolve, I think I can attack with more than one monster, so I just needed one more monster besides the Accesscode Talker, really. Well, actually, no, to be fair, the Accesscode Talker could have popped cards. I didn't even consider that, so I probably would have had enough damage either way. With the equation, I definitely would have had enough damage either way, but now that I'm actually thinking about it a little bit harder, I don't know that I even, like, necessarily needed the Mathmech equation there. But in any case, it's all good. We managed to find lethal there. So let's go ahead and take a look at this next duel here. Alright, hopping into this next Duelist Cup game here. I actually am really glad the Duelist Cup falls when it did, because it's been making for some really good testing, again, as I'm playing more with decks that I haven't played as much with in a while. Going second yet again, no Maxx or Ash Blossom this time, but we did open Thrust again, so there is that. And yes, Gishki Sprite's going to be our opponent this time. They're going to start with Gremness for Abyss, Abyss fetching the Shadow, linking off into an Elf, just doing pretty typical Gishki Sprite stuff, right? They get to use the Elf to... Oh, they're actually going to use the Shadow first for the Aqua Mirror. And then I think they already have a Vision. Yeah, they already have a Vision in their hand. I'm remembering this game again now. So there's the Naramanus. Now we're going to Elf, bring back Abyss, and Abyss is going to grab... Is it another Vision for another Naramanus? That's what I would do here if you have the Aqua Mirror, right? Yeah, definitely. Because then you can use the Aqua Mirror to bounce that other Naramanus back to your hand. Thankfully, no... focused Aqua Mirror, so if they have the Aqua Mirror illusion, they're not going to be able to grab that. But the Naramanus will still come down. This not only, of course, represents a monster negate, but also brings back the Vision to allow them to continue to combo off. That said, our hand has not only a Thrust, but also a Crossout Designator, in case they happen to have a stray Sea, Ash Blossom, Nib, Imperm Call by something like that. But on top of that, we've got Circular and 2 Extenders in hand, so I'm feeling optimistic. Like, yes, our opponent is fully going off here, but at the same time, I think that we have enough gas. Plus, we still have a card we're going to draw, too. I think with the 5 in hand, we'd have a decent shot of being able to just push through our opponent's board. Oh, yeah, they're not even going for a sprint or anything. They're just going for IP, and they're getting a carrot off the... Yeah, this is not bad at all. There's basically 3 interaction points that I have to be concerned about here, right? The Naramanus, the carrot, and the IP. Opponent is going to Maxx C. I'm going to go ahead and fire off the Crossout Designator. I was honestly trying to bait the carrot more than even negate the Maxx C here. I was wondering if my opponent would negate this with carrot. They didn't, though. They let it resolve, so... Seems like they know that, like, I'm kind of fine with Maxx C resolving because I'm just going to try to win the duel on this turn. That's true of a lot of decks where if you're going second, then you can usually just try to push through Maxx C for lethal. Obviously, it very much depends on the board and your hand, but with Mathmech in particular, I mean, you know, OTKing is like what this deck is kind of known for, right? Well, you know, going first and setting up Superfact is one thing it's known for. Going second to OTKing, I think, is the other. So, gonna have to use a talent. Well, I was gonna say to bait out the carrot, but it wasn't even a bait, really, because we don't have any more spell and trap cards at this point, so... Yeah, I really want to take the IP and get it off the board, but at the same time, I think we should have enough ammo to keep going here. So as I normal summon this Circular is when my opponent's going to fire off the IP and go for the Goddess, using that Circular as a material there. Alright, but now I get to link off Sigma for Linguriboh, mostly just to link summon so that way I can fire off the Parallel Exceed. Do have to keep in mind the Underworld Goddess effect to negate the effect that brings back a monster here. But I think because I have the Gatchiri, I shouldn't need it. Like, I'm going to use Splash Mage, but yeah, here's the Underworld Goddess's effect. But yeah, now I can just special the Gatchiri at Ignister. And I tried to think, actually, when I was playing this duel out, like, live, you know, I sat there and thought for a minute. I was like, is there any way I can climb up to access code without using the Gatchiri right away so I can use the Gatchiri when I make the access code to make it unaffected? But it doesn't seem like I'm going to be so lucky, but it's not going to matter here, honestly. My opponent, like, if they had Nib, they would have fired it off, I think, already. Well, maybe not necessarily, but they can't imperm me, and if I can just clear the main phase into battle phase, I pretty much know I'll be good at that point. We do have to keep in mind that Accesscode does not target, the destroy effect does not target. So that actually matters here because it means we can't use the destroy effect on the Underworld Goddess, but we can still battle over the Goddess to do 2300, and then plus 5300 is 76, which in this case will still be enough for lethal because my opponent did lose 1,000 life points earlier, thankfully. If that were not the case, my opponent would have actually survived this duel with 400 life points, which definitely would have been very, very scary. But again, thankfully, we managed to get in that little bit of... I'm trying to remember where that chip damage came in, actually, now that I think about it. Oh, it was their starter for the carrot. That's where it was. So, thankfully for that, we were able to secure the win that way. So, cool, good stuff. I got a couple more duels to show off. Let's head into the next one here. Keeps tripping me up. I keep looking for the deck, and I'm like, wait, where is it? I'm like, oh yeah, right, Duelist Cup. So, that'll probably be the case for the next few videos, as I'm going to be doing, as I mentioned before, a lot of dueling in the Duelist Cup. A lot of going... I didn't realize I had so many going second games. This time we're opening all 3 circular. I mean, we do like to see the card, but 3 copies is still a little bit excessive. We have the Ash Blossom here, but we're up against Sword Soul. And Ash Blossom not at its best against Sword Soul, to be totally honest. It's a little bit lackluster against the deck. It stops pretty much exactly Emergence, which they don't really often need to make their plays, right? So, here they're actually grabbing the Abyss Dragon Sword Soul, which is very interesting and not at all what I expected. Alright, they're sinking for 10. I assumed it was going to be Baron, or Baron de Fleur, but no, it's actually Long Yon here. And that's all they got. Okay, cool. I'll definitely take that. So, I could have used the Ash Blossom to stop the draw, but I figured that wasn't really worth it. Also, hey, Max, see you right on time. Gonna special one of my 3 circulars, and then normal the Diameter. Cool thing, if you open circular and Diameter, you can actually start by specialing the circular and then normal the Diameter to chain block the circular effect there. But, not that it would matter against, like, you know, the Chi Xiao, but... Alright, so I'm gonna throw down the Alembertain. I'm mostly just trying to see if I can, yeah, get the, Qi Xing Longyan to use its effect here to banish, because... I really just wanted to get that out of the way, and by using the Omni Negate from Diameter, we can force the opponent to use Qi Xiao's Negate as well. So, now I know my opponent's out of onboard disruption, and I'm not too concerned about that anymore. They do get to special the Abyss Dragon Sword Soul, but I'm going to chain off the Maxx and just cycle it here for a draw, see if I get anything useful. And we do, actually. We get a Triple Tactics talent, which is very useful given my opponent's activated monster effects during this main phase, but spoiler alert, I'm not even going to need this triple attack that I just drew. Not even going to need it. I did hold it here just in case my opponent had some kind of unexpected disruption, and maybe I could use the draw to see if I could find it out, but yeah, like I said, it's very much not going to be needed at all here. So thanks to that Mathmech Equation we grabbed with the circular, I can bring back the Diameter to go for the Update Jammer. And yeah, just going to do the same climb we did last time for the Accesscode OTK, right? Where we are going for the Splash Mage into Transcode. Splash Mage and Update Jammer into Transcode. Just make sure you're careful to not activate Update Jammer effect the first time, because otherwise you'll give your Transcode Talker 2 attacks, which is definitely not what we want here. So... we do, however, want to give our Accesscode 2 attacks with 5300 attack, and by activating the Update Jammer first, we ensure that it gets chain blocked by the Accesscode, and because the opponent can't respond to Accesscode Talker's effect, they won't be able to in turn respond to the Update Jammer as well. But yeah, I mean, that's a very clean OTK line, just going into the Accesscode, popping the board, and then swinging twice. It is also important that we did it the way that we did. You might be thinking, well, Hex, couldn't you just, like, linked the Splash Mage and Update Jammer into Accesscode right there? That's 4,300, but you still swing in twice. While that is true, and that would still be lethal with 2 direct attacks, the thing is, we need to put in as many attributes of Link monsters in the graveyard as possible. In this case, we needed 3 of them to pop the 3. So that was Splash Mage as Water, Update Jammer as Wind, and then also we made the Transcode as Earth. So we have one more game to show off. Let's go ahead and see it here. I'm actually... okay, hang on. Let me think. I'm remembering this game. This is the game... oh, shoot. I just had it in mind during that last duel, and now I forgot already. But I think we go second again. Yeah, holy cow, we went second every single duel here. Oh, I think this is a game against Gatchiri. Yes, yes. I'm remembering this game now. Yep, here's the unicorn. Yep. So Unicorn's going to go ahead and grab the Gatchiri Theosis, and then they're going to... That's right, they do a really weird line here. They special the Scareclaw by banishing the Theosis they just added? Question mark? Then specialing Riseheart and going for Era... And then passing. I don't really know what that was all about, unless... I mean, I do. I'm assuming it was just somebody who's not that experienced with the deck yet, but... yeah, Unicorn is by itself a full combo line for not only the Era, but also a Riseheart and a Fenrir and a Unicorn, which is a lot better than what my opponent ended on, but... Maybe they should have checked out my combo guide, which if you're interested in a Gatchiri combo guide, I do have one here on the channel. Feel free to go ahead and check that out if you are interested, but... Well, I do still get the Unicorn during the standby phase here, so I know I'm pretty much guaranteed to lose my access code here. Oh, I also lose one of my monster zones because of the Small World Banish, which is a little annoying, but not the end of the world. But it's okay, we don't need the access code to OTK because my opponent threw this Unicorn in attack mode, and it's got 3,000 or less attack points, which means I can do a Terahertz OTK. So I'm going to make the Alembertain here, Alembertain detaching 2 for the Diameter, going to normal summon the Diameter and activate the effect for the Circular. I do note also that I could use Thrust here for talent, for any number of things, honestly, but I'm not even going to need it. That's such a recurring trend among these games. Not only did we go second, but not even needing the Thrust or talent that are live. So yep, I'm going to use these 4 monsters, as I mentioned, to go into the Firewall Dragon Darkfluid Terahertz. Multiplication is what I'm sending, and by setting multiplication, right, we not only boost Firewall Dragon up to 5,500 by its own effect, but then it gets doubled to 11,000. That's why I said your opponent only needs a monster with 3,000 or less attack points in order to... OTK there, because you're battling with an 11,000 attack monster. So, funnily enough, the Scareclaw Gatchiri effect does activate there, and I want to talk about this for a second because the Scareclaw Gatchiri effect does actually negate the effects of my Firewall Dragon, but that actually, as you can see, does not take away the attack boost. So, still an OTK even with the Scareclaw up. And there we go. That's going to do it for these games. Again, I didn't even realize when I was saving these that I got 4 going second duels. But that definitely shows that Mathmech is a very solid deck in general, right? It's not even a specifically going second deck, but as you can see, we had absolutely no trouble doing so. And even these duels where we had talent and thrust going second, didn't even need it half the time. Didn't even need them. That'll go ahead and do it like I said, though. So let's move now to our outro. Alright everybody, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching all the way to the very end. That means a whole lot to me, and it's also a fantastic way to support the channel. And if you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways besides YouTube, there are plenty of ways to do that. If you check out the description below, you'll find a bunch of links down there. One of them goes to my Patreon. You're actually seeing the names of everyone subscribed to the Patreon on the screen right now. So if you're interested in getting your name in the credits here at the end, if you want to see more daily Master Duel content, or if you're interested in one-on-one private coaching sessions, I offer all of that on Patreon. I also stream live on Twitch. Feel free to go ahead and click that link and follow and or subscribe there. I also have the Discord community, if you want to follow that link, where hundreds of duelists have already signed up. Free to join, and you can just come hang out, talk about the game, and chill in general. Final link that's going to be in the description is my Twitter. You can follow that if you want some more notifications of what's happening with the channel. So, all in all, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.